It all begins when we see a young man running in a forest in Ireland, which is said to attract lost souls. When people enter, they can no longer leave. This boy, named John, tries to get out of the forest, but noticing that he is running around and his watch has stopped, he tries to climb a tree to spend the night. Then we meet our main character, named Mina. She is an American who lives in Galway, Ireland, and works in a kind of pet store. One day, her boss asks her to take this beautiful macaw with her because they have to take it to a zoo. So, she takes it home, and at night, go to a bar. Here, she chats with a guy but uses a fake name and profession. The next day, she comments to the bird that she sometimes likes to go out in disguise. Then, through an audio message from her sister, we realize that Mina has a bit of a distant attitude because she hasn't gotten over the death of someone very close to her. In this place, we can already see many missing persons notices. When Mina continues on her way and starts to cross the forest, her phone and radio signals start to fail and the car stops. When she gets out, she finds a sign that warns of the point of no return. Thinking that someone surely lives nearby, she takes the macaw and starts looking for help, but finding no one, she gets ready to go back to the car. Surprisingly, it has disappeared. Mina tries to stay calm and even gives the macaw a name, Darwin. However, the earth begins to tremble, and when she hears someone running, she tries to follow them. She meets a white-haired woman who suddenly opens a door and tells her to run because it will close in 5 seconds. Once inside, the white-haired woman, named Meline, tells her that this place is called The Shelter, and introduces her to Kira and Daniel. At that moment, Meline hurries them and explains to Mina that they must get ready because, at night, some people arrive who call themselves the Observers. These only watch them until the sun rises. Meline makes her take a step forward, and when she hears noise, they confirm that it is applause for their arrival. When dawn breaks, this kind of mirror fades away, and Mina prepares to leave the place, even though she is told that she will not survive. She is stunned to hear a girl ask her why she left, and as she keeps running, she finally catches a glimpse of the sun but realizes it is a dead end. Back in the forest, Meline tells her that everyone has tried to get out and also failed. She also tells her that she should be careful because the forest causes hallucinations and that she should not go beyond the line of signs that are around the place. Upon returning to the shelter, Daniel jokes about the show that the Observers will have with the return of Mina. Later, Kira starts dancing because they like it. Later, Mina watches the recording of a TV show, and the next day, she goes for a walk with Kira, who tells her that her husband, named John, left 6 days ago but still hasn't returned, which is the same guy we saw being attacked at the beginning. Also, Kira shows her something called the burrow, which are holes in the ground where the watchers hide when the sun is out. Then, when they are all gathered, Meline warns Mina of the rules: not to turn her back to the mirror, not to open the door after dark, and not to go near the burrows. In the evening, Mina continues to watch the program, and as she is bored, she goes over and taps her fingers on the mirror, hoping to hear a response. The next day, Mina accompanies Daniel as he hunts for Abby, and he tells her that Matt was a university professor and that he has been there for over 8 months. She notices that Daniel is also curious and convinces him to help her see what's inside the burrows. Upon touching the ground, Daniel tells her to stay in the light, and Mina explores the place, finding many objects belonging to other people. She makes Daniel get on a bicycle, but at that moment, she hears a noise. Luckily, Daniel manages to get on it, and we also realize that Mina recovered many objects. Among them is a camera that Daniel installs in the shelter because the artifact, for some reason, only works in there. So, they decide to leave the camera recording outside so they can see the watchers. However, these creatures do not arrive, but suddenly, a person knocks on the door of the shelter. This is Kira's husband, but Meline does not allow her to open the door, stating that it is only a hoax of the Observers. Meline then asks Mina what she did, and she confesses to her. Meline asks Kira to ask her husband something that only he knows, and when she asks him about the book he is reading, he does not know the answer. So, Kira asks him to take the camera so she can see his face. The Observers start to approach, so they all get into position and, with a great deal of aggression, end up slashing the mirror. The next day, Meline returns all the objects to the den. Sometime later, we see that while drawing, Mina has a memory of when she was a naughty girl. One day, while traveling in the car with her sister and her mother, because she was disobeying and causing mischief, she caused the accident that ended her mother's life. She also says that winter has arrived, and now the day is short. She notices that Meline treats her badly and yells at Daniel. In the shelter, we see that Kira is very sad and that Mina has been drawing the forest on the floor. Suddenly, she realizes that she has left the shelter. Going out to look for her, she finds her next to the den because she wants to look for her husband, John. At that moment, they hear a scream, realizing that Daniel has tied up Meline. He runs out to the shelter and closes the door on her because he doesn't want to let the white-haired woman in. So, Meline and Mina hide in the middle of the branches, hoping they won't be found. At the shelter, Daniel has Kira waiting with him for the observers, and when they realize that 2 people are missing, they go to look for them. So, Meline and Mina knock on the door again, and she tells Daniel that his mother died because of him and that he won't want to feel the same for the rest of his life. In this way, he is convinced and opens the door for them, but there is no time to argue because they have to stand in front of the mirror. At that moment, Meline confesses to them that she was a teacher and that she knew a mythology about that forest, so she herself decided to go to that place. She also tells them that she had already seen a watcher and realized that it was a gloomy replica of herself. According to the mythology, they are some kind of fairies that want to replicate her behaviors, and that is why they observe them. Suddenly, they hear these creatures begin to replicate the phrases they say and want to break down the door. Luckily, Mina realizes that under the carpet on the floor, there is a kind of box that, when they hit it and open it, reveals a hatch. They decide to go down just in time because the observers end up breaking the door and the mirror. In this subway place, which is more sophisticated, they find a lot of food and even a computer. This one does not have internet, but it does contain videos of a professor who studied these beings. He says that he wanted to create a wonderland and had to hire many people to build the shelter, and that he ended up leaving them outside at night to die. He also confesses that, at the beginning, these creatures copied human characteristics badly, but then they started to do very well, and that is why he had to reinforce the shelter. Another thing he tells is that one day, he saw one of these creatures, but it was very different. It looked like a girl with red hair and acted very calmly, and it did not follow the others. We also see that in a video, he managed to lock one of these in the shelter in order to try to interact with her. Mina keeps looking and opens the last video, which is the 300th day. In this one, the professor feels finished because the creatures that he appreciated so much want to kill him. With a gun containing 2 bullets, he will finish with that creature and the others. But before that, he wants to leave a record that upon arriving at a certain sign and following the birds, they will find a boat that can be used to leave the forest. All this with the purpose that they go to his office and destroy everything he studied about that place. Having said this, she goes upstairs and complies with what Mina said and tells them that they will leave the next day. To celebrate, Kira starts dancing with Daniel, and he tells her that his father was a drunkard who beat him a lot. So, Kira offers to stay with him if they manage to run away. The next day, they open the gate and go to look for the boat that is near sign number 134. So, Mina frees Darwin to follow him, and on the way, they find a kind of tomb that was made for the fairies centuries ago when they were exiled by humans. The 4 continue to follow Darwin, although it is starting to get dark, and the fairies begin to follow them. They finally manage to find the river and the boat, but Daniel, believing he is helping John, falls into a fairy's trap. The fairy marks Daniel on the forehead, sealing his fate. At sunrise, we see that the macaw has returned to Mina, and together they are finally free. The 3 of them board a bus to Galway, the city where Mina lives. Despite the surreal nature of their escape, they manage to leave the city. Once Mina arrives home, she takes a shower and is flooded with memories of the day her mother died because of her. The next day, Mina goes to the university, pretending to be the professor's niece. There, she discovers that fairies once lived exiled in the forest without wings. They coexisted with humans as guardians, friends, and even had children together. These hybrids possessed the ability to mimic the appearance of others, even the deceased. Mina also finds a large painting and some photographs that astonish her. That night, she goes to Kira's house with urgent news. Mina has uncovered that Meline was actually the professor's wife, who had passed away. The person who had been with them all this time was a fairy. Waiting for Meline to return, Mina soon realizes that Meline has taken Kira's form. The fairy confesses that she used them for her research, and now that she has escaped, she must kill Mina to prevent her betrayal, just as the fairy would betray her. Before killing her, the fairy reveals that she can walk in the daylight because she is a hybrid of a fairy and a human. Shocked, Mina tells the fairy that they are alike and suggests that they don't have to be alone, there could be more like them on Earth. The fairy, moved, opens her wings and leaves. Sometime later, Mina meets with her sister Lucy and shares everything that has happened. She admits that she often sees the fairy watching her in the form of different people, but she is slowly overcoming this and moving forward with her life.